Hi everyone, this is Mr. Harden of Harden's Manga, here to tell you about Komi Can't Communicate Volume 1. Our cover shows our lead, Komi, writing on a chalkboard with an outline of Tadano in the background, our other lead character of the manga. Komi has a bit of a blank stare, but is drawn incredibly beautifully. The opening pages lead on what the premise of Volume 1 will cover, and that of communication disorders, explaining that Komi has one. So buckle up, everyone, as 19 chapters are in this volume, and they will fly by as we see if Comey can at least communicate with a few people in this volume. Chapter 1 is quick on introducing us to Tadno, the boy from the background, and we see that he is trying his best not to stand out due to standing out too much in middle school. All the while, during his introduction, we see Comey sneak up as her locker is next to his. He tries to say hi, and she zooms right past him, ending the chapter. The mangaka sets up intrigue right away, I feel, in the art here, as the panel of close up Comey are super funny, and her skitter scatter away is priceless. Chapter 2 is just as quick as Chapter 1, so be ready for things to happen fast, readers. As Tadano, after being brushed off by Comey, gets to class and realizes she's sitting right next to him. He's ecstatic as we all get to understand that Comey is the beauty of the school, and everyone is ready to gut Tadano to get his seat next to her. Class introductions are in order, and on Comey's turn, she can't speak, so instead, she runs up and writes her name on the chalkboard. Tadano finally gets some wheels clicking in his head that something isn't right with Comey from this. Chapter 3 is Tadano's introduction, which is really simple, but the response isn't, as the mangaka creates tension in an incredibly funny fashion here, with people clicking their tongues and a whole ninja throwing his protractor at Tadano. Reason why is after his introduction, he dares to return Comey's eraser she drops, which she can't handle and malfunctions a bit as she tries to respond with Tadano trying his best to ignore the situation. Chapter 4 sees Tadano getting beat up for just being near Comey in an insane panel. It's honestly crazy how much Tadano can put up with. But interestingly enough, after he stays behind at his desk skipping PE, it lets him hear Comey for the first time, and it's a meow towards her cat plushie. Comey tries to dart off with some cute cat ears the mangaka draws on her, but Tadano stops her in her tracks as he asks if she isn't very good at communicating. Chapter 5 picks up right from here with Cat Comey conversing with Tadano via the classroom chalkboard. It's the first time we get to see Comey actually conversing in this whole volume. It's also where I believe the mangaka will hook you as a reader, as this whole volume is going quick, but this chapter feels intentional. The art pauses its humor and focuses on how Comey feels. She's afraid she won't be able to talk normally, or be a normal student due to her communication disorder, shown in trembling hands and an all too real feeling. Chapter 6 solidifies this feeling, as Tadano doesn't treat the situation with awkwardness or even jokes. He decides to write on the board himself to continue the conversation with her. It takes up the whole chalkboard in an amazing double page panel with no spoken dialogue. It's incredibly full of life, as the two have had a whole conversation, ending with Tadano asking Comey's dream. Her reply is to make 100 friends, and of course, Tadano offers to be the first. We get treated to a blushing Comey page and an agreement that he is her first friend. Like, how absolutely wholesome. Chapter 7 is instinctively how Tadano can help Comey with her goal of friendship. His response? Duh. Just say, hey, let's be friends. This is where the humor is turned back on, as Comey turns to stone, failing to get the sentence out, exposing how uphill this battle is going to be for Comey to communicate with others. Chapter 8 then takes us to the classroom, where Tadano is attempting to help Comey's cause by approaching a new character in Yamai. Yamai is a popular girl with long hair and trendy nails in their class, which quickly we as readers learn she's not one to be trifled with, as she goes ballistic on Tadano after approaching her on the subject of Komi, which is a very entertaining panel, as it's also a learning block for us as readers. Tadano himself isn't very popular at school. Chapter 9 comes in with a sad Tadano and a Komi munching on lunch. Tadano realizes he doesn't have any friends here except in Najimi and Komi. Najimi is drawn in an almost seductive pose on entrance, but the following panels really show that Najimi is just full of life and energy. Plus, they look killer in a skirt, as they put it. Most of all, though, Najimi is a god tier communication specialist, leading Tadano to ask them for help in being friends with Komi. Komi even tries to ask them herself, but stutters all over in a funny panel. Though Najimi is reluctant to help leading into chapter 10, which starts with the frozen in time Komi from the shock. Tadano is shocked as well, but questions Najimi to find out that they think Komi ignored them in the past. It's funny because Tadano knows it was just that Komi is poor with communication skills. So in a goofy panel, he's like, hey, just talk with her one on one and you'll understand. This then becomes the plot line of chapter 11. Najimi, the best of the best communicators, is shown struggling to get the conversation moving. And we get both points of view from Komi and Najimi. It's a fun tactic the mangaka uses throughout the series, but especially in the first volume, when Komi is at her worst communicating. It's always a riot. Once both perspectives drop, we get an encounter with some rough looking characters who are all over Najmi. Komi picks up the house key one of them drops, and in poor communication fashion, scares them off. It causes the gears to fall into place for Najmi, finally, about how odd Komi is, and accepts her as their friend, ending the chapter with some happy, bouncy Komi panels that are oh so cute. Chapter 12 starts a quest for Komi to run errands for her new friend in Najmi. It's to get a super over the top drink order from a chain restaurant nearby. Though Najmi is doing this to clearly help Komi, the setup can't help but be funny as they dart off as they are overbooked for hanging out with friends. Also, a random pause here to appreciate the full page art of Komi we get for chapter 12 start. The mangaka's art really shines the more space they are given. Back to the story though, chapter 13 sees Komi motivated to get the drink Najimi wants. Oh, and Tadano is following her, like a stalker, but like in a humorous way, not the creepy way, throughout the chapter. Komi, though, she's rushing in and out of the coffee shop as she's nervous to order this drink. Ultimately, she can't, and honestly gets a much tastier sounding drink than Najmi originally wanted. But Komi doesn't have the heart to state the order was wrong to the barista and leaves with her drink. Upon delivering, Najmi is like, hey, this isn't right. And a full page sad Komi is how we end the chapter after both Najmi and Tadno apologize. Chapter 14 introduces us to another new character in Himiko Agari, a tall, skittish girl from Komi's class that for some reason Komi is staring down in the opening panels. Agari then goes over how she views Komi as this extremely confident girl, and we as readers know that Komi is just, you know, Komi, a normal girl. But the panels are really funny. Agari can't handle Komi's gaze anymore and heaves over and runs to the restroom to get away from the situation. Komi follows her in, and Agari goes over how uneasy she is about really everything about herself. Once Komi leaves, Agari gets into action to dart out of the restroom, bumping into her teacher, who then gives her a task to relay a message to her class. Agari agrees, but the pressure is too much. She flubs the line at first, and then we get treated to some humor as a panel of Komi coming from the dark absolutely scares the daylights out of Agari, causing her to yell the message and run away. Komi is confused as she gets closer to the class, and we get to rewind the clocks a bit to figure out why Komi was trying to talk with Agari. In a little B-side four-panel page, we find out that Najmi is the mastermind behind how Komi came to approach Agari. Because, like Komi, Agari isn't great with communication. With the affinity noticed, Komi leaps into action. But turns out two people who have problems with communication still aren't great at communicating with each other. Chapter 14 then resumes, bringing us back to the present situation as Komi brings Tadano up to speed. Agari then approaches the two, and they are able to clear up the situation. Even if Agari, instead of wanting to be friends, is like, hey, I'll be your dog though, which is weird, but Komi is counting her as another friend. Chapter 15 brings us to a new location other than the school in Komi's house, plus a full page pajama spread, which, kitty cat PJs are a jam. Komi goes through some morning routine vibes, receives a gift from her dad, and then we see her walk to school. There really isn't a lot of dialogue boxes going on, but the art speaks for itself as all eyes are on Komi during her walk. It's intense, but it ends with her showing off her brand new phone to Tadano. Chapter 16, we learn this is Komi's first cell phone, as she struggles to use it in front of Tadano. This leads Komi to approaching her friends for their cell phone numbers, starting with Najimi, who still can't understand Komi without some help from Tadano. She gets the number and clowns on Tadano a bit too. Komi then goes after Agari, who makes it real weird, so she flees. But Agari gets the rundown from Najmi that Komi wants Tadano's number to be first in her list, so she needs to write it down instead. This causes Tadano to blush big and provide his number as well. Chapter 17 sees the class voting on the next class president. It's over the top and quickly devolves into how high the class can put Komi on its pedestal. It's not very comforting to Komi, but eventually she's not the choice for president, but god of the class. So the vote of president really doesn't matter anymore, and that leaves Tadno with the responsibilities to end the chapter. Chapter 18 takes us back to Komi's house, where we see how Komi reacts to finally owning a cell phone. Finagling with it and playing on her bed, she accidentally calls Tadano. She hangs up, but he calls right back, causing her to panic. But most importantly, she talks with him. It's cool to see that by the end of Volume 1, she is able to have at least one conversation, even if it's incredibly quick. Chapter 19, the final bit of Volume 1, is centered around a game that everyone in class is playing. Najimi ups the stakes on the game by stating whomever loses has to make a kissy face, and it causes everyone to try and gang up on Komi, so she loses. Todno, though, he's not about it, and he won't let it slide, so he loses on purpose. It's a really wholesome moment and a nice breezy way to end the volume, as Komi thanks Tadano for helping her out in this situation. Komi Can't Communicate Volume 1 is one of the best reads anyone can pick up. It's fast paced most of the time, and even incredibly silly. But when it needs to be, it can really tell a beautiful story about how an awkward girl just wants to make friends and a boy who's trying to help. Recommending it is easy due to this, as I feel readers of all levels can enjoy it. So, have you already read the first volume of this hit series? Or have you put it off until now? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, as is appreciated. This has been Mr. Harden of Harden's Manga. And remember, manga is for everyone.